Welcome to another episode of Talking to Dead Guys. I'm your host, Tara Suley. This episode's Dead Guy of the Week is Samuel Johnson. He was one of the greatest minds of the 18th century, a man of words, opinions, poetry, and let's be honest, some rather strong takes on just about everything. Samuel Johnson wasn't just a guy who wrote a dictionary. He wrangled the entire English language into submission in 1755, determined to tame its wild inconsistencies like some kind of linguistic lion tamer. And let's face it, English is still a bit of a mess, but imagine how much worse it would be without him. Johnson was far more than just a walking, talking definition machine. His essays, his dramatic biography of Richard Savage, and his towering biographical and critical compendium, Lives of the Poets, prove that he was not only brilliant, but deeply human. Sometimes grumpy, sometimes hilarious, and was always fascinating. His wit, as faithfully recorded by his longtime friend and biographer James Boswell, was as razor-sharp as his intellect, making his conversations legendary. Tonight, we don't just flip through the dictionary. We dive into the marvelous, opinionated, and delightfully irritable mind behind it. What possessed him to take on such a colossal task? What does he really think about language, thought, wit, and the magic of words? Sir, it's an honor to have you in the studio tonight.
Madam, the honor is mine. To converse is to partake in one of life's greatest pleasures.
Sammy, you've traveled a long way to be with us tonight. How was your journey from the beyond?
Sammy. I am not Sammy. You may call me Samuel, or you may call me Dr. Johnson.
Oh, doctor. Well, that's actually perfect, because I've been meaning to get this spot checked out.
No, please, madam. Put down your shirt. I'm not that kind of doctor. I specialize in the written word. I cannot help you with your ailment. Now, can we please get back to the task at hand?
All right, so I see sarcasm is not on the table this evening. That's going to be tricky for me. I guess that we'll get on with the interview. On to the dictionaries, creation, and challenges. I have some questions for you, Dr. Johnson.
Yes.
What first inspired you to undertake the immense task of compiling a dictionary of the English language?
Madam, I was inspired by no lofty ambition, but by necessity. I saw the great work of the French Academy Dictionary, and I realized that our English tongue was in dire need of discipline and order, and it so happens that a coalition of London booksellers held the same feelings. So they paid me a generous sum, which motivated my hands to engage in this great task, and as a man must live, I resolved to labor. If one is to be a drudge, let him drudge in a grand undertaking.
No way did you just say drudge. That's crazy. That goes perfectly with my next question. So I pointed this out when I was researching, picking the questions I was going to ask you. So you famously called lexicographers harmless drudges. A drudge. We're totally on the same page right now. We're totally vibing. Did you feel like one during the project? Did you feel like a harmless drudge?
Indeed, to chase the phantom of exactitude through the wild labyrinth of language is a task fit only for the most patient of sufferers. Yet, madam, I endured it, for it is better to toil, to immerse oneself in a great task, than to languish in idleness.
Ooh, to languish in idleness. That is so quotable. I should have brought a pen. So some of your definitions, like your humorous entry for fart, which you defined as wind from behind, along with a quote from Sir John Suckling, by the way, guys, like, I cannot make this up if I tried. Love is the fart of every heart. It pains a man when 'tis kept close, and others doth offend when 'tis let loose. They seem to carry a personal touch. How did you balance your scholarship with your personality?
No man writes entirely without himself in his work. If my definitions bear the marks of my mind, it is because language is the instrument of thought, and thought is never divorced from its author. To write without feeling is to write as a cold automaton. But I have not sought to impose wit where wisdom was required, only to illuminate with a little fire where darkness threatened.
Wow, Dr. Johnson, today's academics really should take a page out of your book. Get it? Your book. Because I actually don't think that I can read another 30-page soulless article and then write my own 10-page soulless summary about it. I don't think I can do that anymore. Anyway, moving swiftly along. Oh, look, I'm taking a page out of your book now. It's perfect. How did you decide which words to include and which to leave out?
It was not my business to record every vulgarity uttered in alehouses or brothels. I sought to preserve those words that are of real use to the gentleman, the scholar, and the man of reason. So I immersed myself in the great works of the masters of the English language, William Shakespeare, Richard Hooker, John Dryden, Sir Francis Bacon, Alexander Pope, Robert Boyle, John Milton, John Locke, and even the Holy Bible, along with a plethora of encyclopedias. The English tongue is vast, madam, but not all of it deserves memorialization.
Two things. One, I'm concerned for myself because all I got from that was brothels and, did you say hooker?
Yes.
Can't, guys, like I said, I can't make this up, even if I wanted to. Richard Hooker. I hardly know her. And I was also just thinking, we should probably try to keep you as far away from Urban Dictionary as possible. You might get sent right back to your grave. So don't worry about it. It's for your own good.
I'll take your word for it.
Yes. See, I know things too. I have some questions for you now about language and about influence. Do you believe a dictionary should dictate proper usage or simply record how language is used?
Language, like government, must have its laws. If words are left to the rabble, they shall be distorted beyond all measure. A dictionary, madam, must not merely record but guide, else we are left to an anarchy of meaning, adrift in a sea of entropy.
Again, I didn't get a word of that, but could I listen to you talk for hours? You should read audiobooks. It's a really great side hustle. So your dictionary became the standard for English. Looking back, what do you think made it endure? Oh, endure.
Perhaps because, like a fortress built upon a solid foundation, it was constructed not with haste, but with labor and judgment, as I and a collection of trusted colleagues toiled and agonized over each detail over a period of 9 years. Clearly, time has told us that a work of patience is more enduring than a work of convenience.
Sorry, you said 9 years. It took you 9 years to compile every single word in the English language.
Indeed.
Well, I'll be lucky if it takes me that long to finish my undergrad, so I'm feeling pretty inadequate right about now, yeah.
Your parents must be so proud.
Oh, okay. Okay, Sammy. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a little heated, gang. I gotta regroup. Back to my list here. So if you could rewrite or expand the dictionary today, is there anything you would change? And if so, what would it be?
Alas, I fear the language has suffered from the decay of modern affectation. If I had the strength, I should excise those neologisms which add nothing but confusion, and restore to their rightful place those words which have fallen into undeserved obscurity.
All right, so I stand by what I said about Urban Dictionary, and also, please, no one let this poor man open a TikTok comment section or even the app. You know what? Don't even give him a smartphone. It's for your own good. I just kind of wanted to circle back to something we were talking about earlier about your witty little additions and your personality within your work. And I hear that your conversational brilliance was legendary, and I mean, clearly it is, because we're totally vibing right now. Do you see lexicography as a creative art, like your own verbal repartee?
The man who compiles a dictionary is like a mason building a great wall. His work is useful, but he is bound to the materials before him. The wit of conversation, madam, is the flight of the mind in the open air, free and untethered. I should prefer to talk than to compile, but I have perfected both, and each has its dignity.
I should also prefer to talk than to compile. We have so much to discuss after the show. What is one word that you think is particularly beautiful and one that you find utterly detestable? For example, I hate it when people say the word moist. Yuck. But I love the word cumbersome. Ooh, cumbersome. It just rolls off the tongue really nicely. And moist is like, ew, moist, yuck.
Beauty in language lies in sound and in sense. Ethereal, for example, is pleasing on the ears and soothes the spirit. It rolls off the tongue quite nicely. As for detestable words, I have long scorned the word touchy, as it is, as I wrote, a low word.
Okay, so now keeping that in mind, what are your thoughts on terms, colloquialisms, modern words, like the word riz?
What is the meaning of this riz you speak of? Is it some vulgarity? To my ears, it sounds like some venereal disease.
That's actually exactly right. Good job. You know, this guy doesn't have a couple honorary doctorates for nothing. Anyway, enough with the flattery. I guess that's just a fact, not flattery, but...
Don't stop now.
After all your work with... Sorry, I'm like blushing. After all your work with words, do you believe language truly captures human thought, or does it always fall short?
Language, madam, is but the shadow of thought. It strives, it reaches, but it is ever imperfect. Yet, as the map is not the land, but still guides the traveler, so too does language serve as the best means we have to understand one another. And that, madam, must suffice for now.
What a way to end your interview, Dr. Johnson. I'm going to need you to record my outgoing voicemail for me before you leave today. Anyway, I guess we'll wrap things up because I'm sure you're all tired of hearing me sound like an idiot next to this intellectual. Well, Dr. Johnson, we started off with your dictionary, but somehow we've ended up wandering through the vast and wonderfully chaotic landscape of language, thought, wit, and even the outer edges of human expression itself. Your work isn't just a cornerstone of the English language, it's a monument to the sheer force of your intellect and, let's be honest, your sheer determination to wrestle words into submission. It's been a delight poking around that formidable mind of yours tonight. Oh, look at me using words like formidable. You're really rubbing off on me, aren't you? You once wrote, "Language is the dress of thought," and if that's the case, then few have dressed thought with such flair, such power, and on occasion such gloriously barbed wit as you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Sorry I tried to show you my weird mole. And thank you guys for joining us. I'm Tara Sully. We'll see you next time on Talking to Dead Guys. And unfortunately, Dr. Johnson, this show is not free for me to produce. So if you don't mind, we have a sponsorship section that we usually include. If you could just read off of this paper for me.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by Joe Mama Realty, Larry's Gazette, the Bart Claypaper Foundation, MyBookie.gov, and, oh my, Ricky's Roadkill Bar and Grill. You kill 'em, we grill 'em.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Johnson, we started off with your dictionary, but somehow we've ended up wandering through the bath. What are you doing? Dr. Johnson is playing with a little action figure across from me.